make him an offer he can't refuse.
The Godfather trilogy. There are films. There are masterpieces. And then there is The Godfather. Francis Ford Coppola's epic didn't just change cinema, it defined it. It wasn't about gangsters. It was about America. Family. Power. Loyalty. Death. It was Shakespeare in Italian suits, opera in whispers and gunshots. And its cast. They weren't actors. They were gods. Marlon Brando, reborn in shadows and cotton balls, made Don Vito Corleone the most imitated man in movie history. Al Pacino, wide-eyed and terrifying, gave us Michael, the prince who became a monster. James Caan, fiery and explosive, made Sonny's death a national trauma. John Cazale, fragile and tragic, was Fredo, and never lived to see himself become a legend. They weren't playing roles. They were becoming them. And for many, the price of that transformation was their soul. Because behind the Oscars, the praise, the myth, there was suffering. Addiction. Regret. Career exile. Premature death. Brando, once the king of Hollywood, died alone, obese, bankrupt, and haunted by family tragedy. Caan spent decades trying to outrun Sonny's shadow, and fell into depression and drugs. Cazale filmed The Godfather, Part 2 while dying of cancer. Richard Conte, Abe Vigoda, Alex Rocco, all gone. All remembered for a single masterpiece. But what did it cost them? This isn't just a tribute to The Godfather. This is a confession. A reckoning. A final toast to the men who made us believe in Corleone immortality. And who died proving it was only a movie. Over the next few minutes, we're going to peel back the black tuxedo and red rose. We'll look past the horse head, the baptism massacre, and the oranges. And we'll tell the real story, the off-screen tragedy that followed the greatest cast in cinema history. They gave us everything. Now, it's time to remember what it cost. Because The Godfather wasn't just about blood. It was built on it. Marlon Brando, the Godfather who died in silence and shadows. When you hear the words The Godfather, you don't see a logo. You see a man. Slouched in a chair. Speaking softly, while commanding the room with a look. Marlon Brando wasn't just acting. He was creating myth. In 1972, he resurrected his dying career by disappearing into the role of Don Vito Corleone, a performance so haunting, so magnetic, it won him the Oscar for Best Actor, which he famously refused. That moment, at the Academy Awards, when a Native American activist rejected the statue on his behalf, was pure Brando, rebellious, theatrical, defiant. But that's the surface. What came after The Godfather was a slow, devastating fall. Brando had already been labeled difficult long before the film. He rewrote lines. Argued with directors. Sabotaged productions. But Coppola needed him, and Brando knew it. He arrived on set unprepared. Refused rehearsals. Stuffed tissues in his cheeks to give Vito his jowls. And yet, when the camera rolled, pure genius. Coppola later said, Brando destroyed every boundary between actor and character. You couldn't direct him. You just had to keep up. But genius comes at a price. Brando became more isolated, more erratic. He ballooned in weight. He took bizarre roles for huge checks, Superman, The Island of Dr. Moreau, while trashing the industry in interviews. Then came the personal disasters. In 1990, his son Christian was convicted of manslaughter. In 1995, his daughter Cheyenne died by suicide. Brando was crushed. Devastated. He withdrew from public life, lived like a recluse in his Mulholland Drive mansion, and refused almost every offer he received. He died on July 1, 2004, at the age of 80, from respiratory failure, obesity-related complications, and years of internal damage the tabloids could never quite capture. At the end, there was no Hollywood send-off. No emotional tribute. No operatic finale. Just silence. A man who once ruled Hollywood. Reduced to whispers, lawsuits, and a legacy more feared than understood. And yet, when The Godfather plays, we remember. Not the scandals. Not the lawsuits. Not the self-destruction. We remember the voice. The hand gesture. The presence that filled a room without ever raising its volume. Marlon Brando didn't play the Godfather. He became it. And like every real Godfather, he left a family. He left wreckage. And he left legend. James Caan, the hothead who never escaped Sonny's shadow. When Sonny Corleone went down in a hail of bullets at the toll booth, it wasn't just one of the most shocking deaths in cinema history, it was personal. Audiences screamed. People cried. Some even turned off the movie. Because Sonny was more than a character. He was energy. Pure, unfiltered, explosive emotion. And that's exactly who James Caan was in real life. Born March 26, 1940, in the Bronx, Caan wasn't supposed to be a star. He was a rough kid. A fighter. A guy with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. He played football. Studied acting. But no one thought this brash, fast-talking New Yorker would become iconic. Until The Godfather. Caan originally auditioned for Michael. He didn't get it. But when he stepped into Sonny's shoes, it clicked. He improvised lines. Slammed tables. Redefined intensity. That brutal beating scene with Carlo. James Caan made it so real, the actor ended up with broken ribs. That wasn't acting. That was rage. And people loved it. He got nominated for an Oscar. Became a household name. Offers poured in. And then, it all fell apart. James Caan didn't want to be just Sonny. He wanted range. Roles. Respect. But Hollywood? It only wanted Sonny. So he started pushing back. Turned down roles. Argued with directors. Started partying, hard. He fell into drugs, alcohol, wild behavior, and became known as one of the most unpredictable men in the business. He once disappeared from acting entirely for 5 years. By the 1980s, he was washed up. The golden boy had burned out. But then, he clawed his way back. Roles in Misery, Honeymoon in Vegas, Elf, they reminded the world that James Caan wasn't just a memory. He was still dangerous. Still charismatic. Still there. But he never outran Sonny. Not really. In interviews, he spoke about how much the role defined, and limited, his life. I was always the tough guy, he said. But I had more to say. James Caan died on July 6, 2022, at 82 years old. No scandals. No flames. Just, gone. Peaceful. Quiet. A heart attack. After a lifetime of noise, the storm finally settled. Sonny Corleone may have died young. But James Caan carried him for 50 years. On his back. In his shadow. Through every role and regret. And in the end, maybe he was Sonny. Not just the anger. But the loyalty. The family. The way he fought, even when no one asked him to. The Godfather lost its muscle. But we'll never forget the heat. John Cazale, the forgotten brother who became immortal in death. I'm smart. Not like everybody says, not dumb. I'm smart, and I want respect. Fredo's words in The Godfather Part 2 broke every heart. Not because he was weak. But because he was real. He wasn't a mob boss. He wasn't a killer. He was the brother who didn't fit. And no one could have played him like John Cazale. Cazale didn't have Marlon Brando's power. He didn't have James Caan's fire. What he had was truth. He made vulnerability dangerous. He made quiet unforgettable. Born August 12, 1935, in Massachusetts, John Cazale studied acting at Oberlin and Boston University before landing in New York's theater scene. He was intensely private, painfully shy, and utterly brilliant. In fact, here's a fact that no other actor in history can claim. Every single film John Cazale appeared in, all 5, was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. The Godfather, The Conversation, The Godfather Part 2, Dog Day Afternoon, The Deer Hunter. He was a legend before he even got the chance to become one. But behind the roles, his body was betraying him. In 1977, while rehearsing The Deer Hunter, Cazale was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. He told almost no one. Not the press. Not the public. Just a few close friends, and his partner at the time. Meryl Streep. Yes, that Meryl Streep. They were in love. And she stayed with him to the end, fighting with producers to keep him in the movie. Robert De Niro even offered to pay for Cazale's insurance so he wouldn't be fired during filming. But it wasn't enough. Cazale died on March 12, 1978, at just 42 years old. The Deer Hunter wasn't even finished. He never saw the final cut. Never saw the awards. Never knew that his name would be whispered in reverence by generations of actors to come. Because John Cazale didn't chase fame. He chased truth. He delivered pain so honestly that even Michael Corleone, the coldest of them all, had to look away. He made Fredo unforgettable. He made failure human. And in the end, he didn't just die young. He died perfect. 5 films. 5 masterpieces. 0 compromises. John Cazale was the brother who broke our hearts. And we never forgave ourselves for letting him go. Richard Conte, the silent Don who faded before the applause. After all, we are not communists. One line. One stare. One presence. Richard Conte didn't need to shout. He didn't need to pull a trigger. As Don Barzini, he radiated danger, the kind that doesn't blink. He was the Godfather's real threat. Cunning. Strategic. Patient. And in the end, just like in life, he was eliminated in one shot. Born March 24, 1910, in Jersey City, Richard Conte was the son of Italian immigrants. He didn't come from crime. He came from hard work. And he used that grit to claw his way into Hollywood, starting in the 1940s, building a career in film noir and crime thrillers long before Corleones were ever whispered into existence. He was the go-to-tough guy. The quiet killer. The polished mobster. By the time he joined The Godfather in 1972, Conte had already acted alongside legends, Humphrey Bogart, Frank Sinatra, Henry Fonda. But Hollywood is cruel. And by the 70s, his career was already fading. The Godfather was supposed to be his comeback. And in many ways, it was. Though his screen time was limited, every second mattered. Conte gave Don Barzini menace without melodrama, and when he fell on the courthouse steps in a perfectly staged assassination, his legacy was sealed. But in real life, there was no ceremony. No grand betrayal. Just illness. In the mid-1970s, Conte began suffering from heart disease. His roles dried up. He took work wherever he could, low-budget films, bit parts, whatever paid. He was once the top-billed name on posters. Now, he was a memory. He died on April 15, 1975, at the age of 65, just 3 years after The Godfather was released. No fanfare. No front-page news. Just a funeral. A fading star. A name slowly slipping from headlines. And that, perhaps, is the irony. In the film, Don Barzini is gunned down at the height of power. In life, Richard Conte slipped away in silence. But for a brief moment, a few iconic lines, a single unforgettable death. He reminded the world who he was. He wasn't the hero. He wasn't even the anti-hero. He was the threat. And he played it like a man who knew. Sometimes, legacy is measured in how you fall. Abe Vigoda, the traitor who lived in the shadow of his own death. You have to answer for Santino, Carlo. But behind the scenes, it wasn't Carlo who betrayed the Corleones. It was Salvatore Tessio. Smart. Quiet. Calculated. The kind of guy you never expect, until it's too late. And no one captured that quiet treachery better than Abe Vigoda. When Vigoda played Tessio in The Godfather, he wasn't a star. He wasn't even a working actor, really. He was pushing 50, living in New York, doing odd jobs and bit parts. Then he walked into an open casting call, not invited, just hopeful, and changed his life forever. Francis Ford Coppola saw his face, sunken, haunted, ancient beyond his years, and said, "That's him. Not just a gangster. Not just a soldier. But a man who had already lost, long before the betrayal." Tessio's death scene, the quiet realization, the famous last line. "Tell Mike it was only business." It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was resigned. And it made Tessio one of the most memorable minor characters in the entire trilogy. But here's where Abe Vigoda's story gets bizarre. In the years that followed The Godfather, he landed a surprising second act. A comedy role in the hit TV show Barney Miller. Suddenly, the man who looked like death became a sitcom favorite. And then, came the death hoaxes. In 1982, People magazine accidentally listed Abe Vigoda as dead. He wasn't. He was at home, alive, reading the damn article. Instead of suing, he leaned in. He made jokes about it. Appeared on talk shows with a gravestone prop. Started a running gag that would follow him for decades. Is Abe Vigoda dead yet? The answer, for 30 years, was always, not yet. But behind the jokes, he lived a quiet life. No scandals. No fame chasing. Just occasional appearances, reruns, and reminders that he was still, somehow, hanging on. Until he wasn't. On January 26, 2016, Abe Vigoda finally died. For real. At the age of 94. There was almost confusion, people thought it was another gag. But this time, there was no punchline. No correction. Just the end of one of Hollywood's strangest running jokes. Abe Vigoda lived longer than anyone expected. He survived The Godfather. He survived sitcom fame. He even survived his own obituary, for 34 years. And when he finally passed, he didn't need a grand exit. Because he had already proven something Tessio never could. You can betray. You can fall. But if you keep going, the world might just love you for it. Alex Rocco, the casino king who took a bullet and never looked back. I made my bones when you were going out with cheerleaders. One line. Delivered with fire, with ego, with a smirk that told you this man didn't fear anyone, not even the Corleones. But Mo Green did fear one thing, irrelevance. And in real life, so did the man who played him, Alex Rocco. Born Alexander Federico Petricone Jr. in Boston, 1936, Rocco wasn't raised for Hollywood. He grew up in the tough streets of Massachusetts. Got involved with real gangsters. Did time. Changed his name. And headed west, looking to leave the past behind. He didn't go to Juilliard. He didn't train in Shakespeare. He washed dishes, took acting lessons, and waited for someone, anyone, to give him a shot. Then came The Godfather. Rocco wasn't Italian. He didn't even speak the language. But when he auditioned, he had something better, swagger. He was Mo Green. The scene was short. A heated exchange with Michael in Vegas, a refusal to sell out, and then the infamous shot. A bullet. To the eye. No music. Just blood. Glass. Silence. One of the most iconic deaths in movie history, still mimicked, parodied, and referenced to this day. And that was both his blessing and his burden. Alex Rocco was typecast. Every producer wanted that guy, the gangster, the thug, the loudmouth. He made a career out of it, from Get Shorty to The Simpsons, to dozens of mob comedies and crime dramas. He was always Mo Green. And for a while, he hated that. He wanted range. Drama. Respect. But no matter how many credits he racked up, and there were hundreds, the public never forgot the bullet. Later in life, he embraced it. He told fans the ice scene made him immortal. He signed autographs with Mo Green Lives. He joked about it. But behind the humor, was a man who had fought hard to outrun the past, both on screen and off. Rocco died on July 18, 2015, at age 79, after a long battle with cancer. His family said he passed peacefully, surrounded by loved ones. No headlines screamed. No awards were replayed. But somewhere, someone watched The Godfather. And when Mo Green went down in that lounge chair, they gasped. Again. Still. Because Alex Rocco gave us a moment. A death that outlived the man. A role that outshone the resume. A blink, and then nothing. Mo Green may have died dirty. But Alex Rocco? He died remembered. They built the empire, then died in its shadow. They sat in dark rooms. They whispered threats. They kissed cheeks before sending men to their graves. But the true tragedy of The Godfather wasn't on film. It was behind it. Because one by one, the men who gave us this masterpiece, Brando, Caan, Cazale, Conte, Vigoda, Rocco. They didn't walk away legends. They walked away haunted. Brando died bloated, bankrupt, and broken, a man who once ruled Hollywood, now hidden behind drawn curtains. James Caan never outran Sonny's shadow, chasing roles, respect, and redemption until the very end. John Cazale gave 5 flawless performances, and was gone before the 6th. Richard Conte faded into the void, remembered only when the courthouse steps ran red. Abe Vigoda was declared dead decades before he truly passed, a running gag that masked a very real loneliness. Alex Rocco blinked once and was immortalized, never escaping the bullet that made him famous. They played gangsters. But they lived as artists. Flawed. Human. Disposable to an industry that cheered their performances, and forgot their pain. And now, the empire they built still stands. The saga still plays. The gunshots still echo. But the voices behind them? Gone. This video isn't just about death. It's about memory. Because every time we quote a line, every time we say, "I'll make him an offer he can't refuse," every time we revisit that dark, violent world of loyalty and betrayal, we resurrect them. For a moment. So raise a glass, of wine, of whiskey, of silence. To the men who built this cinematic family. To the ghosts of Corleone. To the kings who died without a throne. They gave us blood. They gave us brilliance. And in the end, they gave us everything. The Godfather never ends. Not really. Because legends don't die. They just fade. Into shadow.